Have you ever wondered which drinks actually help your fasting and which ones secretly break it? Could something as simple as your morning coffee or a healthy tea be sabotaging your results without you even knowing? Today, we're going to break it all down. Because when it comes to intermittent fasting, the drinks you choose can make all the difference between success and frustration. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Nana, and welcome back to Senior Health Boost. I'm a holistic doctor and a former Olympic decathlete. My passion is helping you truly master your health by understanding how the body really works. If you're serious about your health journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's get into the heart of today's topic. The number one question I get about fasting is this: which drinks are okay during intermittent fasting? Which ones support your progress, and which ones quietly work against you? In this video, I'll cover 15 different drinks, explaining exactly how each one affects your body depending on your personal goals. And if you stick with me until the end, I'll even share a special bonus one drink that so many people ask me about, and I think you'll really enjoy finding out the truth. When it comes to fasting, people usually have 4 primary goals. First, weight loss. Second, improving insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Now, while weight issues often go hand in hand with insulin resistance, it's important to remember that some people develop type 2 diabetes even without being overweight. Third, some want to reach ketosis, because ketones provide unique benefits. And fourth, many don't have a pressing health problem but simply want to optimize their health through autophagy, the body's natural cellular cleanup process. So, let's begin with the most obvious drink: water. Water is the foundation of life. Since your body is mostly made of it, it's the perfect neutral choice, safe no matter what your goal is. The only thing to watch out for is purity. You don't want to drink tap water filled with additives. Instead, invest in a good home filter or high-quality bottled water. Now, many bottled waters are purified through reverse osmosis. While that's fine for short-term use, long-term it can actually strip your body of important minerals. So, if you're drinking reverse osmosis water, which many of the most popular bottled brands are, just add back a pinch of mineral drops or even a sprinkle of natural salt. That way, you're keeping it balanced. Drink number 2, herbal tea. This one is also perfectly fine. Most herbal teas are safe during fasting, as long as they don't sneak in artificial flavors or additives. Just check the label to be sure nothing funky is hiding in there. Drink number 3, apple cider vinegar. This one's also totally safe. With no nutrients, no stimulatory effect, and no caloric value, apple cider vinegar is neutral. It won't interrupt your fasting state. So far, these 3: water, herbal tea, and apple cider vinegar are all green check marks. But now, let's move into one of the most popular questions: tea and coffee. Green tea is the mildest in terms of caffeine, averaging about 25 milligrams per 8 ounces. That's not a lot. But if you drink 10, 15, or 20 cups throughout the day, the caffeine definitely adds up. For most people, green tea gets a green check mark, but here's the caveat: caffeine is a stimulant. It can push your adrenals to release adrenaline and cortisol, and in some people, that can affect blood sugar and insulin. Most won't notice an issue, but if you're very sensitive, dealing with adrenal fatigue, or struggling with stubborn weight, this is something to watch. If you're under 6-8 cups a day, you're generally fine. Now, black tea. Same story, but with roughly double the caffeine on average. So instead of 6-8 cups, you'll want to keep it to maybe 3-4 cups a day. And then we get to coffee. This one typically doubles caffeine again compared to green tea. While the range can vary a lot, I'd say 1 or 2 cups is usually okay. But if you're sensitive, avoid sipping coffee all day long. For some people, caffeine won't make any difference at all when it comes to fasting goals, but for others, it can absolutely affect progress. Finally, let's talk about a trendy favorite: bulletproof coffee. You've probably heard about it and many people swear by it, but is it fasting friendly? Well, this one also gets a green check mark, but with a little question mark next to it. And in just a moment, I'll explain why. So now that we've covered the basics, let's smoothly transition into exploring bulletproof coffee, because this is where things start to get really interesting. So in the last part, we started exploring bulletproof coffee, one of the most talked about drinks in the fasting world. Now let's go a little deeper, because while it can be safe for fasting, there are important details you need to know before you turn it into a daily habit. Bulletproof coffee doesn't have protein or sugar, so it has virtually no impact on insulin. And that's a big deal. It means that if you make it the right way, it can actually be safe for autophagy, that powerful process of cellular cleanup and renewal we discussed earlier. But here's the key point. Bulletproof coffee is still energy. It fuels your body in a real way. Think about it. 2 tablespoons of fat in your coffee is already about 300 calories. If you bump that up to 3 or 4 tablespoons, you're suddenly drinking 500 to 600 calories in just 1 cup. Now, if you stop at 1 cup, it's usually fine. But if you're the kind of person who goes back for a second, or even a third, you could easily be getting close to an entire day's worth of calories just from coffee. And here's the catch: yes, it's safe from an insulin perspective, but you don't want bulletproof coffee to become a meal. Because when you pour that much fat into your system, your body has no reason to tap into the fat already stored on your body. And if fat loss is one of your goals, that's something to think about. So, what about cream? Is cream okay? The answer is yes. Most of the calories in cream, more than 90%, come from fat. That means it creates only a very small insulin response. As long as you stick to just a couple of tablespoons, cream is not going to interfere with your fasting goals. It's rich, satisfying, and a little goes a long way. But now let's compare cream with something that seems similar but is actually the opposite: skim milk. Here's where people get tripped up. While cream is nearly all fat, skim milk is almost all sugar and protein. Both of those trigger insulin strongly. And because skim milk is so thin and watery, you usually have to pour a lot into your coffee before you can even tell it's there. That means you end up consuming even more of those insulin-stimulating calories without realizing it. To put numbers on it, skim milk has about 3.5% protein and just over 5% sugar, but almost zero fat. So nearly all of its calories come from sugar and protein. That makes it one of the worst choices you can make if you're fasting. It may look innocent, but it will absolutely spike your insulin and derail your progress. Now let's talk about the growing trend of milk alternatives: cashew milk, oat milk, almond milk, rice milk, and so on. Here's the simple rule. They're okay as long as they don't have sugar added. The 2 best options I've found are almond milk and cashew milk. Why? Because a whole cup of either has only about 22–30 calories, with virtually zero protein and zero carbohydrate. Most of those calories come from fat. That means even if you drink an entire cup, you're still only getting 20–30 calories, practically nothing. And if you're just adding a few tablespoons to your coffee, the impact is almost zero. The one thing to watch carefully: read the label. Avoid versions with added sugar, sweeteners, or artificial ingredients. Those are the ones that can ruin your fasting. Here's my guideline. Keep your nut milks under 2 cups a day, and spread them out. Don't drink them all at once, because that can trick your body into thinking it's a real meal. Personally, I'd keep it to less than a cup total. For example, if you're drinking 3 cups of coffee or tea, add a 1/4 cup or 1/3 of a cup of almond or cashew milk to each one. That way, you're still safe. 2 full cups in a single sitting? That's pushing the limit. Now let's move on to something almost synonymous with fasting itself: bone broth. Bone broth has been used for centuries, and for good reason. It's virtually free of sugar and carbohydrates, but it's packed with nutrients. It contains plenty of protein, a bit of fat, and a wide range of minerals. And don't forget the collagen, great for your joints, your gut lining, and overall healing. From an insulin perspective, bone broth has only a slight response, so it's generally fine if your primary goal is reducing insulin and stabilizing blood sugar. But here's where it's different. When it comes to autophagy, bone broth isn't quite as friendly. That's because autophagy is most sensitive to protein. And since bone broth is mainly protein, it can slow down or even interrupt that cellular recycling process. So, is bone broth bad during fasting? Not at all. It really comes down to your goal. If your main focus is reducing insulin resistance, lowering blood sugar, or healing your gut, then bone broth can be a fantastic tool. But if your top priority is maximizing autophagy and cell cleanup, then you'll want to use it sparingly or save it for outside your fasting window. And this brings us to an important turning point, because now that we've looked at coffee, cream, nut milks, and bone broth, it's time to address the drinks that might surprise you: beverages that seem harmless but can actually sabotage your fasting results if you're not careful. And that's exactly where we're headed next. So, as we discussed with bone broth, The real key for autophagy isn't just about cutting carbs or insulin, it's the lack of protein and overall calories that flips that powerful recycling switch. Autophagy literally means self-eating, and it only ramps up when nutrients are scarce. When it does, your body starts clearing out old, damaged cells, recycling viruses, bacteria, and all kinds of cellular debris that you simply don't want hanging around. But here's the tricky part. When you add too much protein, your body doesn't feel the same pressure to recycle anymore. In other words, protein slows down the cleanup crew. That's why experts in fasting mimicking diets suggest keeping your protein intake under about 18-20 grams if you want to maximize autophagy. Now think about this. Bone broth can pack up to 10 grams of protein per cup. If you drink 2 cups, that alone could push you past the threshold where autophagy slows down. Does that mean bone broth ruins fasting? Not necessarily. If your main focus is insulin resistance or stabilizing blood sugar, you're still okay. But if you're fasting specifically to target deep autophagy, then you'll want to limit bone broth to maybe a single cup at most. Now, let's shift gears to something people always ask about: alcohol. Is it ever okay during fasting? Honestly, my answer is no. Even if alcohol doesn't spike insulin much, and even if it doesn't fully kick you out of ketosis, it's still harmful for your liver. And here's the thing, every single one of your fasting goals, weight loss, insulin resistance, ketosis, autophagy, they all depend on your liver functioning well. Remember, there are 2 major types of fatty liver disease: alcoholic fatty liver and non-alcoholic fatty liver. And both make it harder for your body to process nutrients, burn fat, or clean up old cells. So if you're trying to heal your body, strengthen your metabolism, and improve autophagy, alcohol is simply not your friend. Cutting it out is one of the smartest moves you can make. Alright, let's talk about something that sounds a lot healthier: green juice. Fresh juice made from leafy greens, squeezed at home, can deliver a ton of nutrients. That's the good news. But here's the caution: even green juice will raise insulin. So whether or not it fits your fasting plan depends on your timing and your goals. For example, if you're doing intermittent fasting, say, a 16-8 or 18-6 schedule, drinking green juice during your fasting hours will definitely break your fast. That little sugar spike is enough to shut down autophagy and interrupt ketosis. But if you have a carb allowance, maybe you're doing low carb or keto with room for about 30 grams of carbs a day, you might enjoy a small green juice close to mealtime. Think of it like this: if you drink it 20 minutes before a meal, the insulin spike from the juice overlaps with the insulin spike you were going to have at mealtime anyway. So the damage is minimal. But if you sip it between meals, you're stacking insulin spikes on top of each other, and that's a problem. So what's the safe limit? Keep the sugar under 5 grams per serving, and only drink small amounts. That way, you still get the nutrient boost without derailing your fasting progress. Just remember, from an autophagy standpoint, any sugar at all is a big no. Autophagy is extremely sensitive to both sugar and protein, so if your goal is deep cellular cleanup, even a small juice will knock you off track. That brings us to another popular drink: coconut water. It's often marketed as a natural electrolyte powerhouse, and yes, it does contain minerals. But here's the reality: coconut water is mostly sugar. Unlike coconut oil, cream, or milk, which have fat, coconut water has 0 fat and 0 protein. What it does have is sugar, about 2.6% by volume. That might not sound like much, but think about it. Most people don't sip just a few ounces, they drink a pint or more. That's 12 to 15 grams of sugar in one go. And just like juice, that sugar hits fast. If you love the taste and absolutely want to include it, keep it to half a cup or less, and again, have it with a meal. Otherwise, you're better off skipping it. And finally, let's address store-bought juices. Honestly, I don't see any reason to include them at all. Unlike fresh squeezed juice you make at home, store-bought juice has to be pasteurized to sit on shelves. That process destroys much of the fragile nutrition, leaving behind mostly sugar water with little benefit. On top of that, many brands add extra sugar or artificial flavors. So while I can make an argument for an occasional homemade juice if it fits your goals, I cannot recommend store-bought juice under any fasting plan. It's essentially empty calories that spike your insulin and give you none of the benefits. Now, you might be wondering, if so many drinks either break fasting or interfere with autophagy, what's really left on the safe list? Don't worry, that's exactly what we'll cover next. Because the goal here isn't to limit you unnecessarily, It's to help you understand how each drink fits or doesn't fit into your fasting goals. And up next, we'll dig into some surprising beverages that can actually support your fasting journey in ways you may not expect. So let's wrap up by returning to that last point we touched on: store-bought juices. Most people assume they're healthy because they see fruit pictures on the label, but the reality is far less appealing. When juice is bottled for store shelves, it has to go through pasteurization, and that heat process destroys most of the living enzymes, antioxidants, and delicate plant compounds that make fresh juice valuable. What are you left with? Mostly sugar water. Sure, it might sound slightly better than drinking a can of Coca-Cola, but honestly, not by much. Take orange juice, for example. It's about 8% sugar. Apple juice? Even worse. Closer to 10% sugar. That means a single 8-ounce glass gives you 25 grams of sugar in one shot. That's like pouring 5 or 6 teaspoons of sugar straight into your bloodstream. And here's the kicker. It doesn't matter whether your goal is weight loss, reducing insulin resistance, maintaining ketosis, or promoting autophagy. Store-bought juice works against all of them. If you're serious about fasting or health, this is one drink to cross off your list for good. Soda. The elephant in the room. Now let's talk about another category of drinks that people struggle to give up: soda. Regular soda is easy to dismiss. It's packed with sugar or high fructose corn syrup, and frankly, that's one of the biggest reasons so many people got into metabolic trouble in the first place. The connection between sugary soda and obesity, diabetes, and fatty liver disease is crystal clear. But what about diet soda? That's where things get trickier. A lot of people assume that because diet soda has no sugar, no calories, and if it's caffeine-free, no stimulants, then it must be perfectly safe for fasting. Isn't that basically the same as drinking an herbal tea? Well, not exactly. The cephalic response, why sweet still matters, shares the problem. Your body doesn't just respond to what enters your stomach, it responds to what your tongue tastes. This is called the cephalic response. Whenever you taste something sweet, even if it's from an artificial sweetener, your brain and digestive system start preparing for incoming calories. Your body says, sweetness detected, nutrients must be coming. And it may trigger the release of insulin in anticipation. Now, some studies suggest that certain sweeteners like aspartame or sucralose may cause this insulin response, while others like stevia might not. But honestly, the research is mixed, and I wouldn't put blind faith in a few inconclusive studies. The truth is, every body is unique, and the cephalic response can affect people differently. How to test it yourself. So how do you know if diet soda or sweetened drinks affect you? Here's a simple test. 1. Measure your blood sugar before drinking. 2. Have the sweetened drink. 3. Measure again after 15–20 minutes. If your blood sugar drops slightly, maybe a point or two, that's nothing to worry about. But if it drops 5 or 10 points, that means your body released extra insulin in response to the sweet taste, and that insulin spike is exactly what you're trying to avoid during fasting. Think about it. You may not be consuming actual sugar, but if your insulin rises, your body shifts out of fat burning, slows autophagy, and works against your goals. So even though diet soda won't technically break a fast in terms of calories, it might sabotage the metabolic benefits you're chasing. So, is diet soda okay? Here's my take. For most people, having an occasional diet soda, especially one sweetened with stevia, probably won't cause major harm. I've personally tested stevia-sweetened drinks and found no significant impact on my own blood sugar or insulin. But everyone is different, and that's why it's so important to understand the principle rather than rely on blanket rules. If you're sensitive, diet sodas may stall your progress. If you're not, you might be fine. The key is awareness and testing. Your health journey is unique, and the smartest thing you can do is learn how your body responds. Bringing it all together, we've now walked through 15 different drinks, from water and herbal teas all the way to bulletproof coffee, bone broth, juices, and sodas. Along the way, you've learned how each drink interacts with fasting depending on your goals: weight loss, insulin resistance, and type 2 diabetes, ketosis, and fat burning, autophagy, and cellular repair. The takeaway: there is no single answer that fits everyone, but there are clear principles you can apply. Stick to clean, supportive drinks like water, black coffee in moderation, and unsweetened teas. Be cautious with higher calorie add-ins, dairy alternatives, and juices. And stay mindful about sweeteners, even the ones without calories, because they may still affect your insulin response. At the end of the day, fasting isn't about perfection. It's about creating the right conditions for your body to heal, to repair, and to thrive. The more you understand how different drinks affect your metabolism, the more control you have over your health. So, ask yourself, the next time you reach for a drink during fasting hours, is it truly supporting your goals or is it quietly working against you? Thank you so much for sticking with me through this deep dive. I hope you now feel empowered to make smarter choices and maximize the benefits of your fasting journey. And before you go, I'd love to invite you to be part of our growing community. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to Senior Health Boost, and turn on notifications so you never miss another life-changing video. Your support helps us keep creating content that brings real value to your health and longevity. I'm Dr. Nana, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay strong, stay curious, and keep boosting your health.